The newest edition of Blue Ridge Country Magazine is out on newsstands now, and with more details on what you'll find inside is Editor-in-Chief Kurt Reinheimer. Kurt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming and talking to us. So this one is talking about the National Park Service 100th anniversary. What can we expect to see?
Well, you know, we're lucky here, as you know, to have the Appalachian Trail on one side of the valley and the Blue Ridge Parkway on the other, two national park properties, and they're both linear, obviously, and so there's just tons of stuff to do up and down both of them. So we talk about some of those things. Also, just down by Smith Mountain Lake is Booker T. Washington Historical National Monument, which is worth a visit. And then the magazine profiles about a dozen more in the mountains, dozen more National Park Service properties and what they're going to do to celebrate on August 25 when the National Park Service turns 100.
It's amazing to think all the parks that we have around here, you don't necessarily think all of them being those national parks, but we've got so many right here in our own backyards to where you don't have to make an escape.
Absolutely, and national forest lands too.
Absolutely.
Wonderful outside stuff.
There's also in this edition a bucket list about things you need to do this summer. Tell us about that.
Well, we outlined 64 great things to go and see and do in the mountain region, and around here things like you know, ride the Creeper Trail, go hiking in the Grayson Highlands, go find a ferry stone at Ferry Stone State Park, float the New River, drive the music trail, Crooked Road Music Trail.
Plenty of things to do for sure. Also, you're known for your photo essays in Blue Ridge Country Magazine. You got a couple in this one.
We do. We have 4 pages of just the prettiest waterfalls in West Virginia.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful shots. And then we have a guy who took a bunch of photos, close-ups of wildflowers with insects on them. And so he kind of talks about how to get the bee in focus and the flower in focus. So pretty shots there.
And how to, I guess, get the shot too quickly before the bee flies off of the flower, which is not an easy thing to do. And you've also got a bit of a personal note inside of this magazine.
Well, when we got to thinking about the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service and how the magazine could celebrate that, I thought about my family's connection. My parents began hiking on the Appalachian National Scenic Trail, which is a national park property, in the 30s. And so it's 9 decades now that my family has hiked. You know, my parents, myself, my wife, my sons. You know, one example of that is when I was 9, my father took me to Maine, and we hiked part of the AT in Maine, and then 45 years later, I hiked the rest of it with a son. So it's kind of a...
So the outdoors has been a part of your entire life.
And especially the Appalachian Trail.
How wonderful. It sounds like a great magazine. Where can folks pick up a copy?
Well, they're at most Kroger's, they're at most Barnes & Nobles, and if people are here in town, they can always stop by our offices on Brambleton and pick one up.
Blue Ridge Country Magazine, you want to pick that up now before it gets gone. Kurt, thanks so much for coming in and talking to us this morning.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.